Thanks, Chris. So this is no secret to any of you. Life has gotten more expensive. We talk about it a lot. But there's a new survey drilling down on how different groups of us are navigating all of this. But before I go any further, what we're going to talk about right now isn't inflation, it's tipflation. If you're wondering, what am I talking about? Well, think about the service charges followed by tip lines on the receipts you're getting or on screens that pop up after you buy something else, like at a coffee shop. Kent, a lot of people have a lot of feelings about the state of tipping. Are you finding any consensus out there?
Yeah, not a ton, though the majority of Americans do agree that tipflation is real. 72% told Pew Research that expectations of tipping have spread to more places. But how people respond to those expectations appears to depend on a lot of factors.
Hi.
If you're wondering who's most likely to tip a lot for a latte, ask a barista.
I've noticed that a lot of younger people are more willing to be more generous when they tip.
Haley Rhodes knows that might just be her experience at Up Cafe and Coffee Roasters in Minneapolis. And though the new Pew Research survey on tipping culture in America doesn't provide direct evidence, it does show that 38% of 18 to 29-year-olds do view tipping as more of an obligation than a choice, compared to just 25% of those 50 and older.
Gen Z specifically, at least speaking from personal experience, we get a little bit anxious about what's expected of us in those types of situations. I feel kind of almost guilty sometimes pressing no tip, depending on where I am.
But if you remove the guilt trip that comes with the tip screen from the equation,
the younger you go, the less likely a driver will see a tip.
Shay Eisenman says the generational tipping trends she and her drivers at Shay Cab and Car Service see are flipped. And she thinks that's because of the rise of Uber.
Part of the premise of Uber when it came around was you don't need to tip.
Still, the survey found that roughly 61% of people said they always or often tip taxis or rideshares, far above the 25% who reported tipping their baristas.
Sounds good.
And while more and more people report being confused about if they should tip for different services, the group with the highest level of education, postgraduate degrees, struggled the most, with just 22% finding it very easy to figure out.
Whether I was a server at a restaurant or a bartender or a cab driver, I've noticed the higher educated oftentimes are not as good of tippers.
Yes.
Though she says the biggest indicator of all is how much they've served others.
The most generous people are oftentimes middle-class people, working-class people, service industry, and small business owners.
Thank you so much.
People assume because I am a chauffeur and I drive a limo that I only drive rich people and that rich people are the people that pay my bills. But actually, it's everybody in the middle that gives me my living. And then our most generous customers too.
It's like a solidarity thing. I appreciate your work and I understand that this is how you're making your money.
Have a great weekend.
But keep in mind, even baristas have their limits.
One time my car got impounded and a tip prompt showed up. So, it's everywhere now.
And if you're wondering,
No. That was the one time they had a sign on the door that was like, we don't want to take your car. You gave us no choice, but I feel like they had a choice.
No tip there. Everyone I spoke to in those two industries did tell me that overall they have seen tips increase since the pandemic as people generally seem more appreciative for the services they provide. Jana.
And what did you hear about specifically restaurant tipping? Because to me, that's where I was first introduced to tipping in general.
Yeah, everyone seems to agree that you should be tipping at restaurants. That's the highest percentage, right? But we could do a whole story on everything from there because 70% of people said they oppose the automatic service charges or tips being put on your bill for you. And 72%, Jana, said they believe servers should keep their tip money, not be forced to split it with others. Those were types of numbers that kind of surprised me, but that's how Americans feel right now.
Right, and I know a lot of people in the service industry, it's trying to flip that script to understand that the back of house worked on getting that food to you, but it seems to not be all the way there yet for everybody.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just say it all adds up to a lot of confusion when you're just trying to get out the restaurant.
All right, thanks, Kent. Appreciate it. We'll come